It's amazing just how diluted the religious actually are, and I've talked about that before. How they get so close to the truth only to take a hard left into religious fantasy land when reality gets a little bit too uncomfortable. If you want to see a perfect example of this, stick around, because I think this one is so painful that it's going to leave some of you screaming at the screen. I know I recently did an STR video, but this has someone other than the usual band of idiots, and it's just too good to ignore. How do we determine truth? That's the subject of today's talk by Jon Noyes. But while he gets most things right, the second he hits his religious beliefs, he ignores it all because his feelings matter a whole lot more than the facts do. It doesn't matter if you know that your beliefs are nonsense. These people are going to keep believing regardless. It's one of the saddest things I've seen in a long time. So let's get started.
Truth is that which accurately reflects reality. And now when I teach my kids, I've got 4 amazing little girls, and I'm teaching them about the world around them. I'm teaching about the Christian worldview.
So, you've just taken a hard left into crazy land. Now, I agree with this statement that truth is that which accurately reflects reality. But when it comes to religion, they completely miss the boat, the train, the plane, and the spaceship when it comes to actually determining what truth or fact actually is. Because if you're really committed to the idea that truth must accurately reflect reality, how do you actually test your so-called truth to see if it does? You look for corroboratory evidence. You actually need to show that what you believe, what you're trying to teach your kids, is actually the truth. But the religious don't care much about that, do they?
I say that truth is that which accurately reflects reality.
And how do you get from that position to any belief that the Christian worldview is actually true? Because we have a method for examining reality and determining what is actually true. That method is science. But science has nothing good to say about Christianity, especially when you get into the fantasy supernatural claims. And if you look at that little screen behind him, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'm sure he's going to get to this, but I'm going to beat him. So let's take a moment to read through it. We've handled the first one, so let's move on. Truth is factually and logically correct. Yes, it is, but that's not Christianity. Truth is by definition exclusive. Well, I'm not really sure what he means by that, so we're just going to ignore it for the moment and move on. Truth is discovered, not invented. That's absolutely true. But Christianity, and all religions in fact, are just invented. The basis for Christianity is a book that some primitive people wrote once upon a time. That's not discovered. That's invented. Truth exists independent of it being known. Well, that's also true. DNA existed before anyone had a clue that it was there. But the only time that it was rational to acknowledge DNA was when it was possible to test for it and find out that it was actually there in the real world. Truth is discovered, not invented, remember? It doesn't matter how much you want to believe in a God. It doesn't matter how much you like the idea of a God. The time to accept the existence of a God is when it's been discovered and is independently testable and demonstrable. Not just because you really wish it was true. Because, finally, it says that truth is not belief. But what else do the religious have? They have no facts. They can't prove that their faith is true. So I guess we have to thank him for coming up with this list that completely disproves Christianity. Oh wait, that's not what he's going to do, is it?
Well, what do I mean by that? I mean that truth describes the world as it actually is, as it really is. That's important.
Yes, it is. But how do you find out if what you hold as truth actually describes the world as it actually is? It doesn't matter what you can declare to be the truth. It matters what you can independently and objectively prove to be the truth. And the religious are nowhere close to any of that. The religious believe that their so-called truth has been revealed, not proven. And in this case, the little "truth is discovered, not invented" line has already been completely violated. It's painfully obvious that a lot of Christians like to play the "we're being rational" card right up until the time they actually have to be rational. Then it's back to faith and feelings and being an idiot. Because that isn't actually rational. That's not actually caring about the truth. They don't really care about truth. They have zero interest in reality. It's all about feeling good about the things that they believe for emotional reasons. Absolutely none of this double talk means a thing.
Truth is also factually and logically correct, meaning it's not false. Something can't be both true and false at the same time.
And how do you demonstrate whether a proposition is factually and logically correct? Keep in mind, this has nothing at all to do with your feelings. How do you determine whether the speed of light is actually the speed of light? Well, you go and you measure the speed of light. How do you determine whether the pull of gravity is actually the pull of gravity? You go and you measure the pull of gravity. How do you determine if there is a God? You actually have to go and objectively prove with verifiable evidence that there is a God, specifically in the case of Christianity, their particular God. And if you notice which of these the religious simply don't do, yeah, that's the one they need to do. Therefore, their belief is neither factually nor logically correct.
Truth is, by definition, exclusive. That's really important to remember.
Please go ahead and explain what you mean by that, because at the moment, I just don't get it. It's important to remember only if it makes any logical sense.
If it's true, it's not false. That means it's an exclusive claim. So when people saying that you're going to be exclusivist because you're holding a truth claim, or a worldview in our instance, or a belief that stems out of our worldview, well, everybody believes exclusive. We're going to get to that.
Yeah, you're going to have to get back to that because clearly that makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, yes, a true claim cannot be, by definition, also a false claim. But in order for you to hold a true belief, or a worldview, or whatever you want to call it, don't you have to actually prove that your belief is true in the first place? Just because you want something to be true, that doesn't mean that it actually is true. Hindus want to believe that Krishna exists. That doesn't mean that Krishna exists. Scientologists want to believe that they can become clear of harmful body thetans. That doesn't mean that any of that is real. Just because you want something, that doesn't mean that you get it. Faith doesn't prove fact. You have to do a whole lot better than that.
Truth is discovered, not invented. Now, this is one of my most favorite parts of this definition. Truth is discovered, not invented.
Yet, I'm sure you don't understand what any of that means, because Christians have not discovered a God. They've simply invented a God. Let's look at some of the synonyms of discover. Detect, determine, identify, learn, locate, observe, reveal, unearth. These are all active states. You have to actually go and find a thing. You have to be able to prove that it's real. And that's not what theists do. So let's go look at some synonyms of invent. Concoct, forge, fake, falsify, come up with, conceive, devise, dream up. That's what the religious are doing. If they think they're doing otherwise, they have to prove it. Let's see them try.
You see, scientists, they discover Pluto?
Yes, they did. They didn't just read about it in a book of mythology and assume that it was out there. Pluto was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh in 1930 at the Lowell Observatory by taking images through a telescope and comparing them to each other to see if anything moved. It wasn't an act of faith. It was a discovery of science. That is the only way that you can discover anything demonstrably real in the reality that we all happen to share. So we know that science works. We have copious examples. Now, show us the same kind of thing with your God. How have you objectively tested your beliefs to see if they map accurately onto reality? Because if you haven't, you're not doing science. You're inventing, not discovering. Put up or shut up.
They don't invent Pluto.
No, nobody invented Pluto. But isn't that what you people claim happened? You think your imaginary father figure in the sky just zippity-doo-dah'd everything from nowhere. This is absurdly common anymore, that the religious simply misunderstand what they actually believe. Well, atheists believe everything came from nothing. No, that's you people. Have you not read your own stupid book? You're the one that believes that. You're the one that thinks that someone invented Pluto. You're the idiots, not us. And then you try to push your own stupidity on the opposition. Knock it off.
Scientists, they discover COVID-19. It's a huge issue right now. That's why we're doing it this way, this conference, this summit.
Because scientists are doing science. What are you doing? I mean, seriously, what are you doing? How are you going about discovering the truth of your own beliefs? Not declaring them, not making empty claims, but actually doing solid intellectual work to get you to the demonstrable truth. Because you're not actually doing a damn thing. Scientists didn't learn about COVID-19 by reading about it in an ancient book or receiving any kind of indemonstrable revelation. They got out there and they did the hard work and proved that it was real. How about you try that?
Because there's a virus, and the scientists didn't invent it. They discovered, and they discover things about it. See, truth is discovered, not invented. And I love that because truth exists independent of it being known.
That's true, but truth should never be accepted until it is known. Because until you can know it, it isn't demonstrably true. Now, Christians love to say, one day you'll know that God is real. Okay, but that day is not today, and until I actually know objectively and demonstrably that God is real, there is no rational reason at all to take any of your silly beliefs seriously. Because that's not how science operates. That's not how intelligence operates. You know, that science that you spend so much of your time speaking highly of, and then just ignoring when it comes to your own religious beliefs. There is one and only one standard here. It's either demonstrable and thus worth accepting, or it's not and thus not. Pick one.
And when you relate those two last definitions of truth right here, truth is discovered, not invented, and truth exists independent of it being known. It blows my mind. There are so many truths out there that haven't even been discovered yet.
Yes, there are. That's why we keep looking for them. We don't just sit on our asses and believe in them blindly. We go out and we look and we discover what's out there, and only after we've discovered what's out there do we actually bother to believe that it's true. This talk would be fantastic if we didn't know that in the end, he was just going to try to relate it all back to his imaginary, invented, indemonstrable, absurd, and logically fallacious religious beliefs, wouldn't it? Because what he's saying is true. It's just none of it actually applies to his religion.
I love thinking about that because as I'm talking to you, I'm 40. You guys, I don't know how old you are in your setting right now, but you are the future. And you guys are going to go discover so many more truths that are already out there, waiting to be discovered. And I love that. It's really exciting.
Except that along the way, you're trying to fill their heads with this absurd nonsense that you believe that violates absolutely everything that you're talking about. How exactly can you be that dumb? How can you not see that that's what you're doing? You're talking about all the wonderful, objective, demonstrably true things that you can discover in the real world while believing things that are absolutely none of that. And you can't even see what you're doing. What the hell is wrong with you?
It's also important to understand here, lastly, that truth is not belief. What do I mean by that? That's a good question. I hold a ton of beliefs, I'm sure, that are false.
Including Christianity. Because the one thing that you have to remember is that while truth is not belief, belief is not necessarily truth. That's why it's so important to only believe things that are demonstrably true. And Christianity, all religion in fact, simply is not. It doesn't matter how good you feel believing these things. It matters only if the crap in your head is objectively and factually correct. And you haven't demonstrated any of that. In fact, this whole video so far has been a condemnation of Christianity on rational grounds. This is not something that you should believe until it has been demonstrated to be objectively and verifiably true. And you can't do that. You don't even try. You have a massive blind spot, Jon. Do something about it.
Hopefully not willingly, like I said at the onset of our discussion right now. If you hold to a false belief and you learn that it's false, it probably benefits you and do you well to abandon that belief.
Then why haven't you? Oh, right, because you don't really care if Christianity is true or false. You're not willing to hold it to the same standard as everything else. You don't pull up to a stop sign and then look both ways, and even though you see nothing coming, you don't just sit there because you never know, there might be invisible cars going by. Because that's stupid. Likewise, you don't just stand around believing in invisible gods. That's equally as stupid. Yet you do one and not the other. Why is that?
But truth is not belief. Truth is independent of that.
Yes, it is. But not when it comes to your beliefs in your silly imaginary friend. That's the point that we really need to take away from this. You can talk all high and mighty about valuing truth and discovery and science, but when it comes to your emotionally held faith, you throw all that out the window and you just believe. It doesn't matter. None of it matters because how your beliefs make you feel, that matters more than whether or not your beliefs are actually true. Because like I said before, there is only one standard. We don't need more than one. Well, you do because you're an idiot, but normal people don't. I won't believe in gods or aliens or Bigfoot without evidence. Objectively demonstrable, rationally valid evidence that these things actually exist in the real world. But you will. The problem is with you. It's not us, it's you. You are willing to throw all of your celebrated high and mighty ideals right out the window when your emotions are involved. It doesn't really matter to you. It's just words. When it becomes inconvenient, well, you just ignore it. Suddenly, when it comes to your imaginary friend, truth is not discovered. It's just arbitrarily assigned. You want it to be true, so suddenly it is because you say so. But that's not how any of this works. You need to treat your belief in God like a belief in bumblebees. The only time you believe that they're actually there is when you can prove that they're actually there. The only time that God is real is when you can prove with evidence that God is real. Maybe it's time you people stop making stupid videos on YouTube and actually get to work. Do something. Anything. It's got to be better than what you're doing now. Try. Wouldn't that be nice?
Boom. bum,